Welcome to the podcast. I'm Derek.
And I'm Sheena, and this is the North Kinder podcast.
We're talking about mom and dad guilt today.
Why are we talking about it?
You know, it's just something that people are coming up against. I think people want to talk about it. I think even if they don't put it out there that they feel this way, they definitely, sometimes you just carry it around on the inside. And I think it's something good to talk about. You know, what's the main mom guilt these days?
Well, I think lots of moms feel guilty. Like if you're looking at any sort of social media platform and you talk about moms, like the often thing, like it's honestly like hashtag mom guilt. Like that's a real thing. Like I didn't come up with it. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely just things that we go through and we just feel guilty. Like when it comes to like your kids or even your marriage, you have this kind of like overarching mom guilt. Like you're just not good enough. Like you're just not making it. I would say probably the number one thing that I feel guilty about is being a working mom. I was raised by a single mom. She was working all the time. Me and my two sisters, she supported us. And that was one thing that she always said. She's like, I wish that I could have stayed home with you girls and, you know, been a stay-at-home mom. And me and my sisters both said, we don't feel bad at all. We don't feel like we missed out on our childhood in any way. If anything, we saw a strong, confident, working mom who wore all kinds of hats, and she showed us that like anything was possible. Like she would work and come home and still have time with us and cook for us and love on us. And I don't feel in any way that I had a childhood that was disadvantaged because I had a working mom. And so that's one thing that just talking with other moms, they're just saying like, oh, you know, I feel guilty because I work and I have all these things that I have to do, you know, even just preparing for work. And I found that I would feel guilty. I have a unique situation where I'm at home with the kids. Mm-hmm. Plus I'm like working. And so it's kind of this chaotic mix of raising our kids and working at the same time. Some days go really well and people are like, whoa, you're just really working this thing out. And then other days it's not so good. So for me, I've just found that like I'm showing my kids that it's good to work and there's a good example there. And I just make time during the day while we're together to focus on them.
What do you do about it? What's the strategy? What's the answer?
So in this scenario, every morning I do emails. Sometimes it's half an hour to an hour. And so what I do first with my kids, because I'm at home with them, is I make them their breakfast and I put a show on for them. So moms, don't feel bad. Sometimes you have to put the cartoons on and, you know, give them a show to watch while I do my emails. Another good method is I set a timer. So that way I'm not kind of going over and above and the kids aren't getting antsy. And so once that timer is kind of gone off, then I'm done with those emails and whatever I got done in that time is what I get done. And of course it doesn't always work perfectly. They interrupt me and all that kind of stuff, but you just do the best you can. And then we kind of like start our day or start our activities. So that's one thing that I've done. But I also think too, we include them. Like when we do events, they come to the event. So they get to see what mom does. I'm like, you know, mom's selling baby clothes. Like this is a baby show. And they get to feel and they get to see like why we're packing up or why we're getting display items ready. So Derek will bring the kids and they can come and they can be involved and they can see like what mom is actually doing. I know like dad guilt too, because dads work, right? That situation, if they work outside of the home. So I'll take some times where I bring the kids to the office and they can visit dad at work and they can see what he's doing, what his office looks like. So when we have our home interactions, they know, well, dad's at the office and they can actually imagine what that looks like and what that feels like. And if that's possible for you, if you can do those kinds of things, like we even went to, with Derek's work, they build buildings. So there's a few times with the proper safety gear, don't worry, everyone out there, keeping the kids safe, we have brought them to see some of the buildings that were getting built. And it's just really cool for the kids.
The big thing is, you know, when you come home and you've worked hard all day and your kids are excited to see you and they want to play and they want to run and do all this crazy stuff and you are kind of burnt out and then you got the whole commute home. You come in the door, you're feeling like you can't give them your all. Some dads that I know, they will actually take a little bit of time by themselves when they get home to kind of re-energize, maybe half an hour, and then they can come out and be full bore, full tilt and play with the kids. So that's some ways to maybe mitigate the issue or
well, and we have smaller kids too, so their needs are a little bit more. So if you have teenage children, they probably need help with homework and sports. And
they probably don't want to talk to you anyway. So
well, they probably do. Come on. They love their moms and dads. So, but I think it's the same. You want to show your family attention when you walk through the door. So
Right.
whether you can take that time. When I used to work as a teacher, I did have a commute of about a half an hour, and I would take that time just to mentally prepare driving to work. And just with teaching, like, it is very mentally taxing and being in front of people all the time and the energy level. So I would, on the drive to work, I would get mentally prepared and be like, okay, you know, here's what I have to do today. Like, how am I going to speak to the kids? How am I going to focus? And I think that's the same thing driving home from work, is you can kind of maybe even, might be silly, but you could talk those things out, or be like, I was stressed about this today, and just letting it go and kind of mentally processing through that. So moms, you don't need to feel guilty. Like I said, I had a strong mom who worked, who took care of us, and all I saw was a mom who loved us and did what she needed to do. And so you're showing a really good example to your kids to work hard, to be diligent, and providing for them. And they'll see that. And if you love them, that's a big thing, is just love on your kids. And that other stuff won't be such a big deal. Right. So check the guilt out the door. You don't need it.
You don't have to feel guilty. It's not productive. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, people got to work. You know, you get to make up for some of the time that maybe you feel like you're missing out on when you do have to work. Weekends are great for that, holidays, obviously. And if you just make the most of it. And I think the big thing is just let the pressure go. You know, if you love your kids and you're involved with them as best as you know how, I think you're not going to have issues.
Well, I think it affects it too. Like, if you don't really let it go and you feel that guilt, it is going to drag into that time that you are actually spending with your kids. So instead of it being as quality as it can be, you're still going to be like, oh, but I could have been home maybe half an hour earlier if I would have done this or that. Like, you just, once you're there, just be there. I know the other thing that I feel guilty about too is just not spending as much time with the kids. When it comes to spending time with your kids outside of work, or like when you have those time, just make it like the best you can. Like, Derek, you are actually really good at this. Once you come home, you like wrestle with the kids for like what, at least like 20 minutes. Like
minutes.
They just go and they just they go.
Like the other day, Royal punched me in the temple as hard as he possibly could. He really punched, and I said, what are you doing? Like, what is going on? That's crazy. We don't do that. And he's like, I'm sorry, I lost my mind. You just got so excited. Anyways, it's a good quality time.
You need those times to they just get their energy out. They have fun with dad. And I also think too, like for me, like, yeah, I got to do my emails. I have to do that. But Royal or Pippa too, they'll build something, they'll make something, and they're like, Mom, look at my trick. I do, for the most part, not all the time. Okay, this is a work in progress. I do stop what I'm doing and I watch Royal's trick from start to finish.
Oh, definitely.
Or I do look at Pippa's tower and watch her put the last few blocks on. So when they do want your attention in that area, I try to fully give it and fully engage,
100%.
Not just kind of brush it off. One of my favorite pastors that I like, Bill Johnson, said that he will let his kids interrupt him at any time. And I remember thinking, like, what? Like, that's crazy. So if he's having a conversation, it can be an intense conversation. If his kids run up, he will always stop and listen to what they have to say and make them the most important in that moment. And then afterwards, he said to go back to your kids and say, you know, Mommy was talking to Dad, like, maybe next time, like, if it's really important, always interrupt me, but maybe next time if it can wait, you just kind of just see if you can wait on that. And I thought that was interesting. And so that's something that I've been trying to do, is give my kids the full attention. So if they want that, they know that they're the most important thing to me. And so even if they interrupt me, I let them do it, because I want them to know that they're valuable.
You know, again, the younger kids don't always understand the context of, you know, conversation and, oh, I can't interrupt or I can't interrupt. They're learning.
They're learning.
They're learning. They forget. They're crazy.
Like, especially with North Kinder, like, I have people come up to me and they're like, whoa, like, it seems like you're doing all this stuff and it's so great. And like, a lot of it is really great and a lot of it is not so great. And I do have a lot of guilt, like, to make this company work, because I spent a lot of time on it. And there's times where I didn't spend the attention on the kids that I could have or wanted to maybe take more time to do this or do that, but it was cut short because I had something to do with North Kinder. And so I want to keep this company going, make it successful for them, because it was in essence like time taken away from them. So I'm just being totally candid right now and saying that's where some of the guilt does come from. But honestly, a working parent and showing them and loving them, love above all. Like, that's why we have North Kinder Loves People. If you love your little people, your little kids.
Hashtag NK loves people.
That's right. If you just love on them and show them how important they are to you, none of that other stuff matters. And so letting them interrupt you in a conversation, because they're learning social cues and social skills that they don't know yet. And just showing them, Mom and Dad, we love you. We have your back no matter what. And that's what I felt with my mom. Like, she worked a lot. And there was a lot of times that we were, me and my sisters together and cooking, cleaning, and, taking care of those responsibilities. But we don't feel disadvantaged in any way. We felt loved.
So what you're saying is it's the quality of time over the quantity of time.
100%.
Even though there might be someone who's gets to spend a little more time if they're not present, if they're not there in the moment. I guess that's the thing. When you have less time, it becomes more valuable too. So you do become more intentional. I mean, even on our holidays, we oftentimes it's mixed with work. So we have our work time, and then we can really, when it comes to having fun, we really plan some things that are meaningful.
And we separate it. I said, like, setting a timer is a really big deal. And so even if you are a stay-at-home mom, I think that's a wonderful thing. If that's what you do, like, that is great. Yeah. And kids are a lot of work. If they're not with you, then they are with a childcare worker or a member of the family, or someone's caring for them. So it's a job in itself. Like, don't get me wrong. What some moms get into the trap of is they start scrolling through their phone. So if it's Facebook or Instagram, and it's like this warp that happens. Like, it's happened to me, and I open my Instagram page, and even if it's not for work, and you just kind of go down the spiral, you go from one page to the next to the other. And before you know it, half an hour's gone by, sometimes an hour, right? So you could be sitting there playing with your kids and like, I'm just going to check Instagram. And then you go down like the rabbit hole, the Instagram rabbit hole. Yeah. So one good thing that I found is some people have honestly deleted the app from their phone and said, hey, I need to have a social media break. That's not the case for everybody. What another mom suggested, and that I've done too, is this timer thing. Set a timer. So if you want to use social media, that's like a fun way. Like, that's an entertainment thing to do. So if you want to go on your Instagram, just set your phone timer for 15 minutes. So you can do that. You can see what people are doing. Once your timer goes off, you get out of the app. So it's not that, hey, you can't do all the things you like to do. I think it's just being aware of the time that's spent doing them.
Okay.
So dad guilt, how do you conquer it? Like, what's your way that you do it? Because you don't really, when you come home, you're not taking that 15 or 20 minutes to decompress. Do you do it on the commute, or like
doing it like you said on the commute is a good way to deal with it. You can kind of process through, and a lot of times if you have a 25-minute drive and you can kind of turn music on, or just sit there quietly and drive and just relax.
Because it's not going to be quiet when you get home.
Exactly. I mean, there's ways like that you can deal with it. I think the other thing is if you just have it in your mind that, okay, when I get home, I'm going to be full on. And again, it's just 25, 30 minutes of intense, whatever you're doing with your kids, whatever you want to do. I mean, even
wrestling, kicking the soccer ball,
even if you know
drawing,
if you go outside, you go for a walk with the kids or go to the park, even if you feel pretty drained or pretty tired, I mean, being around the kids, you definitely all of a sudden you just find there's a spark there that happens, and you kind of come back to life. They just get you going. And then you can just have in your mind, you're going to chill out later, as the night goes on. So I think if you just have it in your mind, okay, when I do get home, this is what I'm going to do, 25, 30 minutes.
Just have a game plan, of how you're going to be present for the kids. I think that's what you're trying to say. I don't know. I think there's so much to talk about in terms of just feeling guilty, but we just want to tell you that you do not have to feel guilty. That's not something. It's almost like wearing a huge, heavy backpack that you drag around. So those times that you are with your kids, it's not going to feel as light and happy if you're holding on to that guilt. Because I've done it. Yesterday, I'm like, oh, I worked too much, or I could have done this with the kids, or I could have done that. That's okay. Those days happen. Just make that next day and that next moment, just try to make it better. And I know that sounds simple, but just try to be a little bit more present. Just be a little bit more diligent in the time that you're spending on other things. And that could help. So I know we only talked a little bit. Dads, moms out there, comment. Okay. Tell us, what are you struggling with, and how have you overcome it? Because we want to know too, how you conquered that. Some great tips. So if you can comment, if you can like the podcast and subscribe to the channel and keep coming back. We plan to do this for a little while, so we want to keep it going. So if you can engage, if you can engage us, that's great. And we appreciate it. Anything else? I think we're planning on doing it for a lot of while. Okay, I don't know why Derek said that. I love doing this podcast, don't you? It is great. It's so exciting. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.